Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Improve Margins and Security for Your Practice During COVID-19 and Beyond. I am Ayla Ellison with Becker's Hospital Review. We will begin today's webinar with a presentation and we'll have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your screen. We are looking forward to hearing your questions. We will also have an audience polling question during today's webinar. When we reach each poll slide, the poll question will pop up automatically on your screen. Our speaker will give a few seconds for you to select an answer from the options on your screen and click Submit. Thank you in advance for your participation. Today's session is being recorded and will be available after the event. You can use the same link you used to log into today's webinar to access the recording. At this time, it is now my pleasure to start today's webinar by introducing our presenters. Christina Wong is Senior Product Marketing Manager, Regulated Industries at Docusign. Christina has a diverse background in regulatory affairs and marketing, and she now leads the Healthcare and Life Sciences Product Marketing vertical at Docusign. Manish Gumar is Director of System Solutions at Midwest Institute of Minimally Invasive Therapy. Manish has years of proven leadership, management skills, and knowledge of data and analytics to oversee and manage new solutions to increase clients' labor productivity and efficiency while optimizing technology. Luke Felke is Head of Solutions and Ecosystems, HLS, at Salesforce. Luke has worked in healthcare transformation his entire career, developing strategies for providers, payers, and pharmacies. Luke's focus includes customer relationship management, digital transformation, value-based care, clinical integration, analytics, electronic health records, care management systems, health information exchange, and data governance. At this time, I am pleased to turn the floor over to Christina to begin today's presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My name is Christina Wong, and we are very excited to have you here today to talk about one of the things that I know is top of mind for many of you is how COVID-19 has changed healthcare, and especially around the pressures of declining margins. Joining us today, we have a wonderful session with Salesforce and Mimit Health, which is a multi-specialty group that focuses on minimally invasive treatments. So first, I'm going to kick it off with a short introduction of who Docusign is, and then Manish is going to share his incredible story about how Mimit Health's business model allowed them to scale from 8 employees to 60 in just 1 year and increase their revenue by 35%. And then Luke Felke is going to discuss how Salesforce is creating a 360 view of the patient with their technology. And then I'll close it with some technology best practices and implementation best practices and how Docusign is thinking about the future trends of healthcare and how technology can help you adapt to these future trends. And then I'll wrap it up with some next steps and save plenty of time for Q&A. So just a little bit about Docusign. So Docusign, many of you probably know us for just our e-signature solution. We are known for that because that's where our product initially started, but we have grown to be much more to where we have a huge product suite that's really about agreements. And our view is that the world is run on agreements where any sort of paperwork that you have needs to be either prepared, signed, and then acted on, then managed. So whether it's a consent form or a vendor contract, all of these agreements need to kind of go through those phases. We've really grown to a $974 million company and have had a 39% year-over-year revenue growth. So we have over 661,000 customers, and these customers are very satisfied with a 66 Net Promoter Score. So we've actually been in healthcare for a long time. We have more than 100 health systems that are our customers, and we have over 1,400 healthcare providers that we serve, ranging anywhere from behavioral health providers, all the way to Cedars-Sinai. And we are very penetrated also in the leading healthcare ecosystem players. So before we dive in, I wanted to be able to just take a brief poll to just kind of get a sense of what your priorities are, and that will really help guide our discussion on how we could be helpful to you all. So just generally, just pick around 3. You don't have to do all 3, but just top of mind, what are your 3 initiatives that you are prioritizing? And I'll just go ahead and give you a few minutes to fill it out. Just click whether it's any of these. Okay, great. We'll just see the results. Wonderful. I am so glad to see that we have a lot of content here that's going to help talk about this around regaining patient volumes. So why don't I now turn it over to Manish, who will kick us off with this discussion.
Thank you, Christina, for the introduction. My name is Manish. I've been working at Mimit Health for about 4 years now. I'm the Director of Systems and Solutions. Before we get started, I want to give a little bit of background about Mimit Health and who we are and what we do. So Mimit Health was founded by Dr. Paramjit Romi Chopra, who's an MD himself. He's a world-renowned interventional radiologist. And Mimit Health is one of the fastest growing independent multi-specialty physician groups in Illinois, providing excellent inpatient care, healthcare, research, and medical education. Mimit Health was founded in 2007, and our goal is to provide world-class healthcare combined with minimally invasive treatments by industry-leading doctors, physicians, and surgeons, giving the patients an excellent, high-quality service and allowing them to live the best life with a healthy lifestyle, strategy, and wellness solution. And we call this enlightened healthcare. We believe in putting the care back in the healthcare and preserving life and making life better. With that being said, what makes us different at Mimit Health is that we provide patient-centric care, and we believe in the Amazonification paradigm. So what that means is that, when we look at big companies such as Amazon, Salesforce, Docusign for that matter, they're always innovating. They're better, cheaper, faster, and that is the model that we follow. We want to be able to do this in the healthcare industry and adapt the best of practice systems across all industries and providing modern care using a truly holistic and encompassing approach. And when we talk about the holistic approach, we're really talking about the body, mind, and spirit. So anytime a patient comes to us with a problem, we want to be able to solve that problem, and we have personalized treatments where we really take a team approach and really diagnose the problem and really understand the patient's goals and what they want to achieve. We have providers, we have APNs, nurses, care coordinators, and we use the technology and the foundation behind all that to be able to leverage the technology and give us a high quality service for our patients and solve their problem. With that being said, when we talk about this, we really talk about the body, mind, and spirit as well. It's really good to solve a problem, but we want to go over and beyond and give the patient experience a holistic 360 view. So a great example of this is when you get a cut on your hand and you go to the doctor, typically they'll just put a Band-Aid on it. But what we need to understand, and the importance of the story, is when the Band-Aid is on the wound or the cut, that's actually there to protect it from infection. And what's actually happening is your body is healing the wound internally. And one of the things that go with this is law of attraction, which is really talking about if you think positive, positive things happen. And if you think negative, negative things can happen that can really impact your health. So we really believe at Mimit Health that, the body, mind, and spirit is really the approach that we take with all our patients and making sure that they get a personalized treatment. With the technology aspect, we really look at document management, and we use many different SaaS enterprise platforms such as Salesforce, Docusign, and Box for Healthcare. This is all integrated within one system, and one of the challenges that we've noticed in the healthcare industry is that many systems are in silos and the information is not there or visible to many different departments or team members, so it's not really connected or collaborative. So the approach that we took is, we wanted Salesforce to be our single source of truth as our platform and integrate different SaaS enterprise materials and technologies that can really help us for our business processes and our objectives. And we've used Box for Healthcare, which is more of content management, and we have a DICOM viewer with that as well. And then Docusign has been very helpful in terms of version tracking. It's being mobile. We're able to give patients all their documents digitally and get all the signatures, all the consents, all the intake, HMP, registering procedure consents, and that's been very helpful in terms of improving our margins as well. And during this time, COVID-19 has really hit everybody very hard and all the businesses all across the globe. And it's been we're very grateful for all the technologies that we have today because, with Docusign, we're able to do contactless documentation with our patients and able to get them in and just service them right away rather than, having them come in and then they have to fill out all these forms at the clinic and then they're waiting 15, 20 minutes before they can come in. We're able to do that all digitally as well, which really takes us to the digital transformation journey. And this is a very important concept to understand as healthcare is going through this, and it's really been accelerated with the pandemic. So the first level of this is digitalization, which is the conversion of analog information of digital format. So let's say you have a piece of paper, you have documents that you want to upload. It's actually converting that into a digital form, whether it's JPEG, PDF, PNG, or whatever the process may be in the back end. Now, digitalization is the process of the technology driving change. So it's actually taking that document that you have digitalized and putting it into a system, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's your EMR, and being able to have that information stored in the system. Now, the digital transformation side is the effect of digitalization on making sure that information is actually presented to all the stakeholders and all the departments within your organization. To give a prime example, you want to make sure that you have all the patient engagement data, all the revenue cycle management, and all the care coordinators all collaborating with each other and having the right information at the right time to make the right decision. So when you're going through this digital transformation, the effect and being more effective and increasing your labor productivity is very important, and having the technology to do so. And with Docusign, we're able to do that on our platform, is really have the information all stored in one place, all visible to all our team members to make the right decision at the right time. Now, there's 4 levels of data that we look at. We look at data first. Once it's data, then it translates into information. Once that information is visible to the whole team in the system and the single source of truth system, that information can be obtained as knowledge. And once you obtain that knowledge, you're able to make a decision, which is called wisdom. Now, with all these aspects, I know that, for myself personally, I've implemented many of these technologies with the team, and we have to make sure that we have the right methodologies, the right project management, which goes into the SDLC side, which is the software development lifecycle. And we use this methodology because it clearly defines our processes for creating high quality systems and software. So we really believe in VPIC, Visualize, Plan, Implement, and with the technology aspect, we really believe in the SDLC. So it's really consists of planning, having an analysis of the technology and how it's going to make an impact, the design with your softwares, the implementation, testing, integration, and maintenance and management throughout the course. This is very important because, as challenges come up, with many healthcare companies, provider organizations, they face this challenge of how are we going to implement this technology? How much is it going to cost us? Is it going to go over budget? So these are all things that people think about when implementing technology, and it's very important to have the methodology and the principles to follow, so that way you have a clear, defined process that you want to meet the objective to. And with that being said, we really look at the 6 pillars of success, and this is very important to us. It's a principle that we live by. Salesforce, Docusign, Amazon, and Coxo does a very well job in living by these 6 pillars by having an excellent product and service, excellent customer satisfaction, excellent employee satisfaction, physical responsibility, adding value. For us, it's really adding value to the patient, making sure that they can get their high quality treatment service and making it physically responsible on them too, making it affordable. continuous improvement and innovation. That's very important to understand because when we're growing in the technology and the digital transformation today, we're really looking at how we can keep innovating and keep adapting, because the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. And it's very important, the healthcare side, to adapt to these new technologies and be digital, to engage with your patients, to make sure that they have the easy and seamless accessibility to the services that you want to provide. And the last but not least is being able to sustain all these excellent systems and being able to handle all this, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to provide excellent products, excellent customer satisfaction, excellent employee satisfaction, all these pillars, but you have to be able to sustain it. And that comes with change management, training your staff, making sure you have a good LMS program in place where all the staff is being trained on anything that is being changed within the organization in terms of technology adoption. So with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to Luke Felke from the Salesforce side.
All right, thank you, Manish. That's great. I always love hearing updates from Mimit Health. I really have kind of grown to appreciate your thoughtful business processes, and the theme that you just kind of mentioned. It's not just about technology and digitization. It's really about business processes that allow you to engage your customers, your patients, but also your employees at the same time, and making it sort of a harmonious ecosystem. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as I move forward. Like Christina mentioned, my name is Luke Felke. I am with our Salesforce Health and Life Sciences industry team, and I lead our Global HLS Insights group. I wanted to start off just by talking a little bit about who Salesforce is. So a lot of you know us as an industry-leading customer relationship management tool, but we are a lot more, and that's kind of what I'd like to highlight through the discussion of helping margins in today, but also talk about what is the broader concept. So we at Salesforce really help our customers stay in touch with their customers. And like Manish mentioned earlier, some of the key components that we enable at Salesforce that make that happen are the digital transformation tools, as well as the engagement tools and the business processes tools that can support that. When you're kind of looking at the ecosystem and how to engage the customer or the patient and keeping them at the center, there are really a lot of challenges. And I mean, before COVID and even now, we saw issues with disparate systems, siloed data, change in compliance and compliance regulation, and just a lot of challenges that prevent an entire organization from being able to really look at that central picture of who a customer is, so that they can appropriately engage them, and make them have a really differentiated experience. So to address this at Salesforce, we've created Customer 360. So Customer 360 has long been a concept at Salesforce, but at our last Dreamforce, just under a year ago today, it was released as functionality. So think of having the patient at the center, surrounded by all these tools at Salesforce that can really bring an integrated and differentiated experience from your business and its business-to-business processes, even to your business-to-customer processes. So it's more than just enabling a platform that enables digital transformation, but you're allowed to, on the Salesforce platform, create the differentiated processes that allow your organization to excel. So one example, and I saw this in the poll, which was, sort of being able to, make remote workforce effective and being able to bring individuals back to work. If you look at our Customer 360, you can see our trailhead and reskilling. That's one example that's been very effective in being able to add light, nimble, and little consumable learnings that keep your employees engaged through a very dynamic time. So to dive a little bit more into some examples and talk a little bit more about the theme of addressing margins, I wanted to talk about the example of COVID. At Salesforce, we've been looking at it in 3 distinct phases. There was a reaction phase in which we had a response to needs, which included return to work, virtualization of work. A lot of that, was done in a very hasty, almost in sort of a Band-Aid format to kind of fix current problems. But what it really led to was one of the biggest movements in digitization globally within healthcare and life sciences. So that brings us to our second phase, which is really where I think a lot of us on the call and are dealing with today is really this realignment. So we've fixed the immediate solutions. How do we then apply some of the concepts that Manish talked about with Mimit, with really enabling thoughtful processes that culminate in being able to add a very effective and efficient, differentiated experience for patients, customers, members, and consumers. We actually see the next step for this is really being able to have a platform that enables an enterprise to work together through these business processes and differentiate. And we really feel that through things like automation and integration, you're going to be able to address those margins. And by addressing those margins, we're going to see those who are going to come out of this new normal as winners and successful. So one really, really great example of a platform that has composable components that can help you automate and in an integrated fashion is the Salesforce partnership with Docusign. When I was showing sort of that circle of, that customer 360 component and all the great tools, Docusign is, a very deep partner with Salesforce that plugs in and integrates seamlessly with many of those tools in order to have seamless and automated integrated business processes and experiences for customers. So with that, I would actually like to transition to Christina to hear a little bit more about those Docusign solutions.
Great, thank you, Luke. So yeah, this has been a really interesting time that we're all living in, and what I really liked about Manish's story and what he was talking about is this idea that technology and his tech stack of using Salesforce, Box, Docusign, and connected into his EHR was really able to enable them to address declining margins by being able to increase the amount of patients that they were able to see. Because they were able to automate their systems through that technology, they were able to grow globally, scale, and have all of these patients fill out this paperwork at their homes instead of in the office so that their throughput of seeing the patients increased, thereby increasing their revenue. And so I think this is a wonderful story that kind of helps set the stage for all of us on trying to think about how technology can really be a tool for you to help address some of these challenges that we have and all of these unknowns that are ahead of us in the industry. So I'm here to focus on how Docusign, or looking at technologies like Docusign, can help you address your margins by either increasing the number of patients in your throughput or reducing costs. So I know probably for some of you, trying to build a tech stack that's quite different and kind of going along this digital journey that Manish and Luke have been talking about could seem kind of scary, and you don't really necessarily want to plunge forward. but some of you are probably already very tech savvy and have great systems, and you're looking today to figure out how do I optimize that, our systems, so that we can address these margins more effectively. And so my hope is that today we address both of these camps who might be here on this call. So let me just give a little view about how we believe a solution like Docusign or Salesforce can help be a technology to help you reduce your margins. And it's really about investing your money in a technology that can be comprehensive enough to help you scale across your organization. And that it's something where you don't just buy one small niche solution for one certain problem that you have, but it's really about buying a solution that can meet many challenges that you have, but is also nimble, agile, and flexible enough to be able to address challenges that may come up. And so as I mentioned before, Docusign really believes that your business is run on agreements or paperwork, whether it's HR or BAAs or informed consents. These are all that you would gain so much value in reducing your margins by digitizing, just as Manesh has kind of talked about as a case study on how they were able to do that in practice. But many of our customers have that story like Manish is talking about, where it starts out with kind of an e-signature solution. And because they picked a premium e-signature solution like Docusign, they were able to really quickly adapt it to whatever need that they had. And that when COVID-19 arose, using our e-signature solution allowed them to launch a telehealth solution within 48 hours. So this just demonstrates how our innovative customers are using e-sign, but then growing it in more ways to help meet a specific need, such as telehealth, or how they were able to grow globally. Another key way that our customers are thinking about using a solution like Docusign is that a lot of them start kind of in this back office idea where they start out in HR, but then as they see the value of our products, they start to bring it into maybe more patient-facing use cases, and that they grow and adapt to meet three main constituents. So Docusign and our solution, we see that it meets the needs of the patients, your employees, and the clinicians. And especially when it comes to our security and increasing employee productivity, that's where we see a lot of value given to your employees, particularly around our CLM solution, which is our contract lifecycle management solution. You could start to help address your margins by just not having your employees spending all this time and hours looking for contracts, trying to get red lines and negotiations and tracking down emails. There's a lot of productivity gains to be made by optimizing both your patient-facing paperwork as well as a lot of your back office paperwork. So I'll get more into this in the presentation, but I wanted to introduce this idea that when you want to try to reduce your margins, think about it in a holistic sense throughout your entire organization. So how we've demonstrated that investing in a technology, a comprehensive and robust technology, can help you with this need and these pressures is when COVID-19 first hit, we had a huge slew of demand throughout the entire industry just to address this crisis at hand. And our solution, without having to buy other solutions and investing in more costs, was able to adapt Docusign to meet the immediate need of COVID-19. So as you see here from the left, we have a mobile app called Teledoctor24. We have a behavioral health provider, heart-centered counseling, and a fertility clinic, Engaged MD. These were very interesting because they first started out as an e-signature solution, but that they actually with COVID-19 needed to have stronger identity verification. And so they bought Docusign and our Identify product to meet and verify more stringent identity verification that they may have. So Teledoctor 24 actually used us to meet eIDAS regulations, and the fertility clinics also used our Identify product to make sure that as they are working on their, valuable personal properties of these people, that they are who they say they are. Another interesting piece is when you go onto the right-hand side, these are some of the ways that larger hospital systems used us. So a large healthcare provider in Texas set up a curbside COVID-19 testing site where the patients use their own phones to scan a QR code to bring up informed consent on their mobile phone, and the patient electronically signed their forms using Docusign without ever touching a pen or leaving their car. And then another provider in San Diego, California, conducted COVID-19 clinical research, and we have a special product that is approved for FDA 21 CFR Part 11 compliance signatures. And so with our other products, they were able to enroll COVID-19 infected patients into their clinical trials in a contactless way. So these are just different stories that I wanted to highlight as they were able to address their margins and continue to see a lot of patients just because of their technology, being able to leverage Docusign, their EHR, and other parts of their tech stack to really address the needs at hand. And as you're looking to the future, we all know that it's very uncertain for all of us, and that you need to invest in a technology that's going to be able to adapt to this future state of healthcare. So there are about 5 trends that Docusign is really focused on adapting their products to make sure that we can help you address these trends at hand. So the first is on economic security, uncertainty, and what this is really the idea is that there's a huge amount of income inequality that this industry is going to be affected by. A September 29th, 2020 PBS NewsHour article said that most low-income renting families spend at least half of their income on housing and utilities, while nearly a quarter spends more than 70%. So as you can imagine, if they're going to have, a healthcare crisis, a lot of these people are not going to be able to afford these bills if they're not covered. And so providers like yourselves are going to have to address this shortfall, putting more pressures on your margins. And so one way that Docusign is really thinking about this is being able to digitize like your HR practices. So we enable a lot of flexibility if you need to be able to scale up your hiring or be able to scale down your hiring based off of how your patient volumes are looking. If you're able to digitize all of those HR workflows, you will save time, and you will not necessarily have to hire as many administrative staff as well to be able to address these needs. Particularly, we have our solution can help with online credentialing. We have portals and being able to sign and verify a lot of those pieces that you would need for credentialing all digitally. That's one way that you can think about helping address the economic uncertainty and making sure that your margins are continuing to stay healthy. The second trend that we're really focused on is the fact that your patients expect more from the healthcare providers to be digital, especially now since COVID-19, they've gotten a lot more used to telehealth. We all know that they're not going to want to go back to the way things were, very analog. One example is with our customer, Houston Methodist. They went from using Docusign from HR to then, because of COVID-19, using us to onboard patients to fast track them. So once they get into the office, they can go straight in and see a doctor. And that this vision of being able to communicate to your customers online through online portals, making it a seamless experience. They don't have to think about, what they might have to do in the office, are all things to just make yourself competitive in this space that's very uncertain. The third trend that Docusign has been able to adapt to is the fact that there are reconfigured delivery models. Telehealth is here to stay. Virtual clinical trials are taking off. A McKinsey September 2020 report said that virtual care and outpatient options show more potential revenue growth at 113 CAGR through 2022. So this is really where your investment in technology and telehealth, I think, will help you a lot. As Manish discussed, his ability to use Box, Docusign, and Salesforce to launch their telehealth solution within 48 hours is demonstrative of this, and that integrations will also be key here. You want to be able to have your technology work with and be compatible with your existing systems like Mimit Health has done, and that helps you reduce your margins as well because you're not investing in all of the implementation costs that may occur. So more than 60% of Docusign transactions are through our API, and that we also have a partner called named No2 that helps Docusign become interoperable with EHRs. So those are the type of pieces that you want to look for in a solution is, do they have the partner ecosystem to make this worth my time and cost effective? The fourth trend is around total cost of care. And this one's really interesting because in the same McKinsey report, they said that the healthcare industry is suffering from a $70 billion to $100 billion outflow because of COVID-19. They also estimate that COVID-19 could depress the healthcare industry earnings by $35 billion to $75 billion compared to baseline expectations. So, yet they've also said that they believe that the healthcare industry is going to have operational efficiencies to where there is still, they estimate between $280 billion to $550 billion in opportunity within healthcare delivery by 2028. So the expectation and the pressures are there for you to adopt a technology to become more efficient and to be productive with your staff. And that is something that I think the analysts are expecting, that the providers will become more digital and go through that journey that Luke and Manish has laid out for you with the product development lifecycle and the way that you have a 360 view of your clients. And then last but not least, we all know regulatory changes all the time. I mean, we're in the middle of an election here. We need to be able to adapt to any of these changes, and that solutions like Docusign has technology around AI, and so that you can make your contract smart. You can understand if a regulation changes, how that contract is either in compliance or not compliance by using AI technology. Instead of spending precious time of your staff having to review contracts months and months on end, you can help reduce those costs by just having a digitized technology like our CLM solution to help bring in AI and tools to help you with those cost savings. So overall, I met with our customer success team, and they gave me about 4 best practices around how you can make sure that when you get a technology that it's implemented well. Manesh talked a bit about change management as part of the 6 pillars, and that actually is a key to success in making sure that your technology is successful, because you might have the technology at hand, but whether or not the customers, your staff uses it or not, or that they don't waste time trying to learn it, also will affect your margins. And so these are 4 key best practices that our customer success team says that's important. First is having a centers of excellence, which is where you have a group that will advocate for that technology to be implemented successfully, and that they will break down doors if there are even challenges. Some some titles that you could think of not only as an executive sponsor, but as a CISCO, legal, finance, board, or patient advocate. The second best practice is to make sure that your technology is standardized across your entire organization. If you start to put these processes in different silos, then there's usually gaps or things that are not working that well. The other piece is that you want to make sure your technology has the ability to have reporting mechanisms. So Docusign has certificate of completions and automatic audit trails. And so when regulations changes, you need to be able to know that that data exists and that you would be able to report on something that may be needed to be able to demonstrate the value of the technology. And then lastly is technology socialization. There is no such thing as over-communicating that you have this technology. The more that people know about this, the more they know how to use it, and you showcase the successes, the more that people will want to use it. And so again, when you're thinking about your margins, you don't want these extra costs later after you bring in this technology, so that you know that things are working efficiently and you don't get these roadblocks on the implementation side. And so lastly, this is how Docusign actually calculates our ROI. As you can see, we have a way that we look at hard cost savings, revenue upside, and productivity benefits. And our value engineering team actually goes in with our customers and does these analyses with them, and they'll see that we've seen over in our healthcare industry, we have about a $9.38 savings per document, a $7.21 reduction of hard cost per document, and a 50% increase in form accuracy and completeness. And the rest are really about the productivity benefits. So again, when you're looking at ROI and when you're looking at what McKinsey said and expecting the industry to adapt with being more profitable or addressing some of the shortfall, you need to be looking at your workforce productivity, the ease of doing business, and the ability to comply. So I think to conclude, we believe that when you're able to work with technology vendors like Docusign, Salesforce, and Box, as Manesh has described, it's important to see that technology is instrumental for you to be able to be agile, adaptable, and flexible to meet the future uncertainties and trends that we're seeing in the industry. Building this tech stack allows you to be able to reduce operational costs and enable scale and growth. So lastly, change management is really key to your success, and so don't overlook that because there's a lot of unknown costs later that happen. So you're going to need to keep that in mind when you're looking at bringing in a new technology. So before I turn it over to Q&A, I just want to make sure that we keep the conversation going. Please go to the Docusign website. There is also a very exciting webinar that Fierce Healthcare is leading with Houston Methodist, and on October 27th at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. I put a tiny URL there. That's tinyurl.com/Houston Docusign. And Michelle Stansbury, the VP of Innovation at Houston Methodist, will share how the hospital reinvented the patient experience for the COVID-19 pandemic and launched a touchless patient registration in just 3 months. So it's very exciting to have this upcoming webinar just next week. And just please take the survey. We would love to hear what future topics you would like to hear about. And please, here's our email so that you can be in touch. So I will now turn it back over to the moderator for Q&A.
Thank you, Christina, Manish, and Luke, for that fantastic presentation. Like Christina said, we will now begin today's question and answer session. So please submit any questions you have by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your dashboard. And we'll try to get through as many questions as we have time for today. We've already had a few questions come through throughout the presentation, so we'll go ahead and jump in with those now. In our first question we have, which I think is for Manish, because it's about Mimit Health, and they're asking if you can describe how exactly the technology you implemented reduced margins and the actual KPIs you achieved.
Yeah, absolutely. So we really looked at it in every use case scenario. By implementing the technology, Docusign, Salesforce, we're able to increase our labor productivity, and by increasing that, we're able to increase our load for patient volume and utilization management. So we believe in operational excellence and utilization management. So a really good use case that we had is, can we treat people outside the state, outside the country? And we had patients come in from outside the country as well, and we're able to get them in by using the platform, the technology behind it. In addition, for example, if you have every patient coming in spending 10 to 15 minutes filling out paperwork, but if you can give it to them ahead of time, you actually opened up a slot for 15 minutes and then per patient, and that actually adds more volume to the providers to see more patients in a day.
Thank you so much, Manish. And we'll go ahead and move on to our next question now. And this person is wanting to know, were the integrations between Docusign, Salesforce, and Mimit out of the box or custom? And then also, how do you evaluate how much IT commitment is needed to integrate solutions together?
So most of it was out of the box. Obviously every organization has their own workflow, their own processes. So there is a little customization that is done, but a lot of it is out of the box. They have out of the box connection between Salesforce and Docusign already, and it works very, very well. They also have an out of the box integration between Salesforce, Box, and Docusign too. So it's really dependent on your workflow and the process and the outcomes that you want to see within your organization.
Thank you so much, Manish. And the next question that we had come through for our presenters today is this person is just wanting to know, what are some best practices to implement technology change quickly? And I'm sure each of you have something you could probably share or have some best practices to share, but so I'll just open the floor up to whoever wants to chime in on that one.
So I
Sure.
think
I'll go first.
Okay, great.
Sorry, go ahead, Christina.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So when we look at best practices of implementing technology, it's all about, really following the process and following the principles. Project management is a key element in ensuring that the technology is implemented very well within the business. When it comes to change management, documentation is key. So whenever you're deploying any technology or any product within your organization, you want to make sure that the team has already done a lot of the user testing beforehand. Everything is done in a sandbox environment, which is not, this is getting a little bit technical, but you want to make sure all the users tested their workflow first, so then when you go live, it's very seamless.
I would say the four best practices that I laid out around centers of excellence, process standardization, reporting, and technology socialization are the main four that you would want to make sure that you implement. But with regards to the quickness part, I think it's really about making sure that the technology that you invest in does have a strong customer success team or has really good tutorials online or self-serve. So one example is for heart-centered counseling. They were able to get up and running of their telehealth solution and train over 200 of their employees in a matter of days just by using our Docusign University tools that we have. They're a very, very small practice and they don't have a lot of money, and so they weren't able to bring in our customer success team, but the quality of those videos that were self-serve were able to help them get up and running really quick. And our customer success team, when COVID-19 happened, were all hands down able to get, COVID testing sites or fast tracking these patient registrations within weeks to short amount of months is mainly because of their knowledge and their ability to have worked with these customers for a long time. And they were working overtime, to be quite frank, but I think that's something really important to think about. When you're looking at margins, it might be like, wow, that's kind of an investment to make, but it does save you time and costs usually in the future if you just kind of spend a little bit upfront money on making sure that the vendor that you provide does have that good bench of knowledge to rely on.
Thank you so much, Christina. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Luke. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No problem. I would just also, I would emphasize the 4 components, Christina, that you mentioned, but also talk a little bit about sort of that center of excellence and that process standardization as that's applied and kind of as we're moving forward. I think, it's going to be critical to adhere to the requirements and needs of business, but we're definitely going to see more and more success by addressing margins, by being able to have that process be really nimble. And I just wanted to call out that, I think Mimit showed earlier in their presentation how you can have sort of a continuous quality improvement component that allows you to be more nimble and improve incrementally rather than big bang. So I see that being a very successful model, especially with the technologies that we're talking about that can be out of the box integrated, but are more like composable pieces that can be put together to create robust solutions. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Luke. And thank you also, Christina and Manish, for sharing some of those best practices and also some specific examples of implementation. It looks like we have time for at least one more question today. So I want to go ahead and jump in with that question now. And this person is asking, what are some unexpected changes that COVID-19 created, and how did it change how you're thinking about the future of Mimit, Docusign, and Salesforce? So if we could have each of our presenters weigh in on this one. Christina, I'll turn the floor over to you, and then Manish and Luke can weigh in as well.
Sure. I would say one of the unexpected changes that we are now more focused on is around interoperability. So as Manish talked about the integrations that he had between Salesforce to his EHR and with Docusign and Box, that's the type of ecosystem that we want to be able to create to be able to have an end-to-end experience that's seamless for the patients or for your employees or clinicians. So we are really building out our partner ecosystem to address that, not only with the partner that I mentioned called No2, but we're looking at many other partners in the interoperability space to be able to help us be more streamlined into those workflows. And I think that will help also address like the pressing needs to make sure that the technology that you're investing in is cost effective, because we're able to have a lot of these integrations built in. So that's what we're kind of looking at now. And maybe I'll just turn it over to Manish.
Yeah, and just to echo off what Christina was saying, interoperability is very important as we, the healthcare industry is going through this digital transformation, and many big health systems, many provider organizations have many systems in place for different processes, and being able to connect those systems together and having a single source of truth where you can see all the data is very important across all the departments, across all the team members. And at the end of the day, you really want to make it very seamless for the patient. And the healthcare industry, the provider is the one that's taking care of the patient. Whenever a patient has a problem, they don't call the payer, they don't call the pharmaceutical company, they call the doctor's office. And we want to be able to make sure that is very seamless. And by having the data in one system, all coming into one system, makes it very easy. So I'd like to hand it over to Luke.
Yeah, I think both of those are very well put. I would also emphasize, Manish, your last point around, having the ability to have that kind of integrated customer 360 view would allow, providers to be that point of contact regardless of, whether the issue or the question is, more pharmacy related. But yeah, I think being able to connect and be that one stop for your customers is a true differentiation.
Thank you so much, Luke, Manish, and Christina. And we've worked through our questions today, and before we wrap things up, I just wanted to ask each of our presenters, do any of you have any final thoughts to share with our attendees today?
I would just say that, it's a very challenging time that we are in, but I think that as we work together, we can be very innovative and collaborative on how we can address all of these changes. And I hope that by showcasing all three of our companies together, that partnerships really do help address some of these challenges, and that please reach out if you have any further questions. But yeah, I'd love to see if Manish or Luke have any other follow-up thoughts as well.
From my perspective and everything, I just want to emphasize that always follow the process. Slow and steady. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We always want to make sure that we're agile, dynamic, and reactive to everything that we're doing, but we have that change management to support it, and a brilliant strategy with a brilliant execution will give you amazing outcomes. You can have a brilliant strategy, but a poor execution, and it will give you poor outcomes as well. So those are my final thoughts to the audience.
The only other thing that I would add is just kind of playing out the theme of incremental, doing continuous quality improvement, being able to step back and have a holistic view of how you can integrate processes and share, data collection, not burden, but opportunities across the enterprise, with the goal of having that kind of fuller patient view, is really something that we think is going to be a priority for healthcare over the next year, and being able to support patients and improve outcomes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the fantastic presentation today, your thoughtful insight and answering everyone's questions, and for your final thoughts. That is all the time that we have for today, but I want to once again thank Christina, Manish, and Luke for their excellent presentation, and Docusign for sponsoring today's webinar. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to having you join us for future webinars.